In the biting chill of a late autumn dawn over the English countryside in 1943, a young man named Michael Rossi, barely out of his teens and hailing from the smoky steel mills of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, found himself squeezed into the claustrophobic tail compartment of a B-17 flying fortress, his gloved hands clamped around the cold metal grips of twin .50 caliber Browning machine guns that seemed heavier than his own slight frame, the aircraft rumbling through the sky at altitudes where the air thinned to a cruel whisper and temperatures plunged to levels that froze breath into icy crystals on his oxygen mask. Born in 1924 to Italian immigrant parents who toiled in factories during the Great Depression, Michael had left high school at 16 when his father fell ill, taking up shifts at the blast furnaces where the roar of molten metal and the clang of hammers taught him more about practical mechanics than any classroom ever could, his nimble fingers learning to repair conveyor belts and weld seams under duress, forging a quiet ingenuity that simmered beneath his unassuming exterior. Enlisting in the Army Air Forces in 1942, not for glory, but to escape the endless grind and send money home, he was funneled into aerial gunnery school in Texas because his compact build, 5'7" and 145 pounds, made him ideal for the cramped positions larger men couldn't endure. Enduring 6 weeks of drills on clearing jams, estimating distances by eye, and firing at towed targets under the relentless sun, his scores average but his determination unyielding as he earned his gunner's wings and shipped out to England as a replacement in the 91st Bomb Group stationed at Bassingbourn Airfield. The B-17, heralded in propaganda as an impregnable flying fortress armed with a dozen machine guns creating interlocking fields of fire like a naval dreadnought, revealed its frailties in the brutal arithmetic of combat over Europe, where German fighters exploited every weakness with predatory precision. And Michael, assigned to the tail gunner station, a coffin-like space where he knelt on a padded bicycle seat with feet braced against the fuselage, body contorted to maneuver the 84-pound guns on a simple yoke mount, faced the harshest reality of all, his aiming limited to a rudimentary ring-and-bead sight akin to those on old hunting rifles, requiring him to mentally compute deflection angles, relative speeds exceeding 500 miles per hour in closing attacks, bullet drop over hundreds of yards, and wind drift, all while encased in bulky flight gear, fingers numb from cold, and the plane bucking through flak bursts and evasive turns. On October 14, 1943, during the second raid on Schweinfurt's ball-bearing factories, this vulnerability culminated in catastrophe as the 8th Air Force launched 291 B-17s deep into Germany without long-range fighter escort, the P-51 Mustangs still months away, leaving the bombers to fend for themselves against swarms of Focke-Wulf 190s and Messerschmitt 109s that preferred the 6 o'clock low approach, diving from the rear where the tail guns offered the primary defense, but hit rates languished below 8% in combat conditions. The fighters closing to within 200 yards to unleash 20-millimeter cannons that shredded aluminum skin and ignited fuel tanks with devastating efficiency. Michael, on his early missions, experienced this firsthand, his tracers arcing futilely behind accelerating foes as shells tore through his formation, claiming friends in explosions of fire and debris, the radio crackling with frantic calls before silence fell over lost aircraft. And by nightfall of that fateful day, 60 bombers lay smoldering across German fields. Another 138 limped home too damaged for repair, and 600 airmen perished or parachuted into captivity. a loss rate of over 20% that rendered the required 25-mission tour statistically impossible, prompting urgent meetings at 8th Air Force Headquarters in High Wycombe, where generals pored over casualty reports, questioning the viability of daylight precision bombing without radical improvements to defensive firepower. Engineers proposed powered turrets and heavier calibers, but Boeing's modifications at the Cheyenne Center wouldn't reach frontline units until 1944, requiring factory overhauls that grounded planes for weeks, an unaffordable luxury as crews died daily. And in this desperate climate, Michael, after a mission over Frankfurt where his bomber returned pocked with 78 flak holes and he expended 620 rounds without a single hit, his best friend's neighboring B-17 plummeting in flames from an undeflected stern attack, lingered on the hardstand under floodlights, staring at his guns with trembling hands, not from fear but exhaustion, the physical toll of wrestling the weapons at altitude etching deep frustration into his soul. That night, in the dim glow of a maintenance lantern inside the tail section, still reeking of cordite and fear sweat, inspiration struck not in the flash of genius, but through simple observation, as Michael noticed his distorted reflection in the curved plexiglass window, revealing angles behind the aircraft that the fixed ring and bead sight obscured, prompting him to sketch furiously in his logbook a system of angled mirrors to expand peripheral vision, allowing him to track his own tracer paths in real time and walk fire onto targets like adjusting a hose. Combined with a reflector sight, a glass plate etched with a reticle illuminated for precise aiming, salvaged and adapted to provide an overlaid aiming point without the mental gymnastics of iron sights. Lacking formal engineering credentials, Michael's mill-honed practicality drove him to measure angles with a borrowed protractor, calculating sight lines on scrap paper, until dawn revealed detailed blueprints for a non-powered, easily installable assembly using scavenged parts, though he knew it breached Technical Order 0120EG-2, prohibiting unauthorized armament changes, risking court-martial. But the faces of fallen comrades steeled his resolve, leading him to seek an ally in Technical Sergeant Frank Keller, a Depression-era veteran from Detroit who had scavenged materials in the Civilian Conservation Corps to build infrastructure with nothing but ingenuity and elbow grease. Approaching Keller in the sheet metal shop on October 7 with sketches and a plea for off-the-books work, Michael endured the initial rebuke about violations but won over the mechanic with a promise of saving lives. And they labored through the night in a hangar corner fabricating from wrecked P-47 reflector sights, curved mirrors from navigation domes, plexiglass from canopies, and aluminum brackets from scrap airframes. Keller re-engineering mounts with ball joints for adjustability, testing alignments by flashlight until the assembly fit the tail yoke with bolted security and wired mirrors, completing the prototype by 0430 hours and installing it clandestinely in Michael's B-17 named Thunder Mule without logging the change. Launching for Munster the next day without informing pilot Lieutenant James Harrow or command, Michael faced his first test over Germany when a Bf-109 dove from 6 o'clock low, and through the new reflector, the reticle hovered stably on the target, while peripheral mirrors revealed gun barrel angles and tracer deviations, allowing instantaneous corrections as he fired short bursts, watching sparks erupt on the fighter's engine before it spiraled away in smoke, his whisper of awe into the intercom marking the system's baptism in fire, landing with one confirmed kill.
And gun camera proof that silenced initial doubts but ignited controversy when crew chief Master Sergeant Donald Price discovered the mod during inspection, reporting it to Captain Richard Vance, the armament officer who stormed the hardstand, demanding removal for breach in protocols on structural integrity and fire risks.
Harrow defended the kill, but Vance remained adamant until word spread through the bomb group like contraband whiskey, gunners clustering around Michael in the mess hall, probing for installation details and slippage resistance, while officers convened in alarm. Assistant Armament Officer Captain Theodore Morris decrying the precedent of enlisted tinkering, only for Operations Major William Calder to advocate testing via gun cameras, the debate escalating to Colonel Stanley Reed, a World War I pilot turned pragmatic commander who, after hearing loss figures, 17 bombers the prior week against 3 fighter kills, authorized a 3-mission trial with cameras, demanding measurable improvement or disciplinary action. On the Bremen raid, October 12, Michael's system shone as he downed a Focke-Wulf 190 with wing root flames and shattered a Bf 109's canopy using just 380 rounds for 2 kills. Footage showing real-time adjustments, tripling accuracy, compelling even Morris to conceive efficacy, though insisting on standardized drawings. But Reed, impatient with bureaucracy, ordered Keller to produce 4 units daily from scavenged stocks, equipping 18 aircraft by October 20, and yielding hit rates jumping to 23% on subsequent missions, like Düren and Wilhelmshaven. German pilots noting in diaries the sudden lethality of rear defenses, forcing tactical shifts away from stern attacks. Brigadier General Frederick Cast inspected personally in November, interviewing Michael and authorizing wing-wide rollout within 30 days. The Field Expedient Tailgun Aiming System Type 1, installing in over 200 B-17s by December, influencing Boeing Cheyenne turret with integrated N8 reflectors on late-model G variants, reducing tail attack losses by 35% and saving hundreds of crews through 1944's Big Week offensives. Michael amassed 7 kills before his aircraft crash-landed in Belgium from Leipzig flak in February 1944, surviving POW camp to return home in 1945, awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross for innovation that the citation euphemistically called extraordinary achievement, resuming life as a machinist, marrying his sweetheart, raising children, unaware of his legacy until a 1983 reunion where survivors credited their existence to his mirrors, his modest shrug belying the thousands saved by a rule-breaking factory boy's refusal to accept defeat. The Luftwaffe adapted painfully, head-on passes increasing pilot losses, post-war surveys attributing 840 aircraft and 8,400 lives to enhanced gunnery, principles echoing in B-52 systems and beyond. Michael's story a testament to frontline ingenuity, trumping hierarchy, where a sketch in a logbook altered war's tide more than generals' plans. Delving deeper into Michael's pre-war world, the Pittsburgh mills were cauldrons of sweat and sparks, young Michael dodging slag splatters while learning to gauge metal stress by eye. His mother's homemade pasta a rare comfort amid 12-hour shifts, enlisting with a duffel of resolve and letters from home tucked close. Gunnery school in Texas baked him under open skies, instructors barking about lead angles he internalized through repetition. His small stature a curse in barracks brawls, but a boon in mocktail positions. Arrival at Bassingbourn brought fog-shrouded runways and the constant drone of right cyclones, crews bonding over cards and fears whispered in Nissen huts. Michael's quiet observations noting gun mount slop and sight parallax errors that textbooks ignored. Early missions etched horrors. A waist gunner sucked out a hole, bombers colliding in formation breaks, the acrid bite of fear sweat mixing with hydraulic fluid. Post-Frankfurt vigil under stars, sketches evolved from frustration, mirrors inspired by periscope ideas from newsreels, calculations scratched on cigarette packs. Keller's partnership born of shared blue-collar grit, nights filled with welding fumes and hushed curses as prototypes bent or aligned perfectly. Munster's kill a blur of reticle glow and mirror flashes, the exploding 10-9 a validation that shook him to prayer. Confrontation with Vance tense under hangar lights, Harrow's intervention a rare pilot-enlisted solidarity. Group debates mirrored broader 8th Air Force struggles, generals like Hap Arnold pushing unescorted raids despite losses, P-47s with drop tanks arriving too late for Schweinfurt. Trial missions footage reviewed in smoke-filled rooms, tracers converging like fate, hit rates graphed spiking upward. Production line a frenzy of scavenged P-47 sites stripped from racks, mirrors polished on wheel buffers, brackets hammered in vice grips, gunners training on ground rigs to master the new feedback loop. Tactical shifts evident in intercepted German radio chatter, aces complaining of ghostly accurate tales. Caste's visit a whirlwind, his laughter breaking tension, orders cascading to depots. Michaels later kills methodical, a Ju-88 shredded over Gelsenkirchen, probables trailing oil. Leipzig mission chaos, flak shredding elevators, Michael firing through spraying fluids, crash in Belgian fields, capture amid burning wheat, Stalag lift endurance on meager rations and Red Cross parcels. Homecoming emaciated but unbroken. DFC pinned in ceremony, avoiding the illegal word. Factory life resuming with precision lathes echoing gun mounts. Family life simple, war tales rare until grandchildren probed. Reunion emotional with Hammond's bracket a relic of gratitude. Legacy quantified in saved formations. B-24 adaptations in the Mediterranean theater, Cheyenne turrets on assembly lines incorporating his reticle placement. Post-war influences on Korean War gunships, Vietnam AC-130 Spectres with computed sights owing conceptual debt. Michael's death in 2003 quiet. Obituary understated, but his mirrors reflected a truth. Innovation thrives in necessity's forge, not permission's delay. A tail gunner's defiance, preserving skies for generations. Expanding the narrative's tapestry, consider the broader 8th Air Force context, where crews rotated through 25 missions like a gauntlet, flak suits heavy with steel plates, oxygen masks fogging in climbs, bombardiers hunched over Norden sites for precision that justified risks. Schweinfurt's carnage prompted Black Thursday moniker. Survivors haunted by empty bunks. Michael's mod spread virally, gunners replicating with varying success until standardized kits arrived. German perspective. Pilots like Jobs adapting to frontal assaults, ramming increases in desperation. Engineering evolution. Boeing patents citing field inputs. An 8 site, a direct descendant. Cultural ripple. Veteran memoirs crediting Rossi mirrors, model kits including the mod. In essence, McHale's story illuminates war's underbelly, where enlisted insight outpaced command. A Pittsburgh welder's sketch becoming armor for the heavens, ensuring more fortresses flew home under his invisible shield. To enrich further, envision daily life at Bassingbourn. Dawn briefings with coffee rations. Target maps pinned under guarded eyes. Pre-flight checks amid mechanics' banter. Takeoff thunders shaking Quonset huts. In-flight tension. formation tight as boxes, flak black puffs blooming, fighters streaking like hornets, post-mission debriefs raw with loss counts, beer flowing to numb. Keller's backstory: CCC camps building dams with hand tools, war a chance to apply skills officially. Trial data analysis meticulous, statisticians crunching rounds per kill. Rollout logistics, convoys of parts from salvage yards, fitters working overtime. Impact missions, big week decimating Luftwaffe. McHale's absence felt but legacied firing. BOW interlude, barbed wire walks, escape plots foiled, liberation by Patton's Third Army. Post-war adjustment, factory rhythms soothing, nights with war dreams, community service quiet, reunion speeches careful, toasts to the Mirror Man, historical what-ifs, without the mod, bombing campaign possibly curtailed, invasion delayed. Thus, McHale's audacity, born of mill grit and combat necessity, wove into aviation history, a single sentence in manuals, but volumes in lives preserved. His Reflector a beacon against darkness. Continuing the expansive chronicle, delve into technical intricacies. Reflector glass etched with crosshairs backlit by ambient or bulb for low light, mirrors convex for wider field without distortion critical, brackets allowing 5-degree adjustments for individual eye relief. Installation manual, improvised, then formalized. Remove yoke cover, bolt base plate, wire mirrors, calibrated ground level with alignment jigs. Training evolution, gunners practicing on sled targets towed by trucks, hit rates doubling in weeks. Luftwaffe countermeasures, armor plates on fighter tails, but weight reduced speed. Allied adaptations, waist gunners experimenting similar, though tail most benefited. Michael's personal kills detailed. First 109's pilot bailing over clouds. A FW-190's propeller feathering mid-dive. Leipzig ordeal. Intercom failures. Michael shouting corrections. Landing gear collapsed in furrows. Guards' bayonets glinting. Camp life. Barter for cigarettes. Secret radios smuggling news. Repatriation. Train rides home. Pittsburgh skyline a miracle. Marriage to Anna, factory foreman promotion, children's ball games. Late reflections in garage workshop, tinkering models of B-17s with accurate tail mods. Obituaries brevity a final modesty, but historians' footnotes expansive. In sum, the tale of Michael Rossi exemplifies how war distills human potential. A tail-end Charlie's vision clarifying paths for multitudes. His band innovation, the spark that fortified the fortress fleet.